both circular economy as well as circular society concepts will have a major impact on how our future lives might look like. But in order to determine how they are gonna change our future, you have to look at the assumptions that you make, the goals that those new future scenarios are supposed to fulfill, and the means to get there. And in order to do that, we will have a look at how a change could look like if we follow the more holistic approach of the circular societies versus the more segmented approach in the business focus of the circular economies. And for both of those different options, we'll have a look at a more optimistic as well as a more skeptical scenario. So let's have first a look at the column that we labeled with holistic and the optimist and skeptical view here. So optimist and holistic gives you the reformist circular society that works on the assumption that a reformed form of capitalism is compatible with sustainability, and that socio-technical innovations can enable something like an eco-economic decoupling to prevent an ecological collapse. So we assume that capitalism is compatible with sustainability and that we can somehow figure out a way to do that. The goal would be to get economic prosperity and human well-being within the biophysical boundaries of our planet. So doing what we do right now under the assumption that capitalism can be sustainable and that economic prosperity can be achieved within the biophysical boundaries of our planet. How would we do that? What are the means to do that? We would need technological breakthroughs, social innovations, and new business models that improve ecological health, resource security, and material prosperity for all. Quite something that would need to do, but this is the assumption for this scenario for a reformist circular society. Transformational circular societies work on the assumption that capitalism is incompatible with sustainability and that socio-technical innovations cannot bring an absolute eco-economic decoupling to prevent the ecological collapse. So the reformist circular society have the assumption that capitalism and sustainability is compatible and that socio-technical innovations can help us. For the transformational circular societies, this is not the case. The goal would be to get a world of conviviality and frugal abundance for all, while fairly distributing the biophysical resources of the Earth. How do we achieve that? What are the means to get there? So first of all, we will need a complete reconfiguration of the current socio-political system. Capitalism, as we just identified, is not compatible with sustainability, so we would also need to move away from that worldview to drastically reduce humanity's ecological footprint, and would also need to figure out a way to ensure that everyone can live meaningfully and in harmony with Earth, so within the capacities of what our planet gives, while at the same time giving you and providing you a life worth living. So next, we're going to have a look at the tech-centric circular economy. So once again, a more optimistic perspective, but now more in the segmented category. So similar to the reformist circular societies, we assume here that capitalism is compatible with sustainability and that technical innovation, so not socio-technical, but technical innovations can enable eco-economic decoupling and we prevent an ecological collapse. So excluding the social part, the socio-technical innovation, just hoping for technical innovations to make sure that we can continue the way that we are following right now with maybe something like a circular economy concept. What's the goal? Getting a sustainable human progress and prosperity without negative environmental externalities. How do we do that? First of all, economic innovations are supposed to help us here. Getting new business model and unprecedented breakthroughs in circular economy technologies in order to close resource loops in combination with economic value creation. So this heavily relies on finding or enabling or getting technologies ready soon enough and then scaling them up heavily and also hoping that they have a drastic enough impact so that we can maneuver us out of the mess that we're currently heading for. So this is a tech-centric circular economy. We're essentially assuming that technology is going to save us. Last but not least, we have the fortress circular economy that works under the assumption that there is no alternative to capitalism. It's the best system we can find, and that socio-technical innovations cannot bring absolute eco-economic decoupling to prevent an ecological collapse. This is what we assumed so far, but now we're saying, okay, there is no way that we can stop that. if you have that assumption, what's the goal then for society? It is to maintain a geostrategic resource security and Earth system stability in global conditions where widespread resource scarcity and human overpopulation cannot provide for all. So we assume that life for some will be really bad, which is somehow already happening or has been happening for quite a while. Widespread poverty and inequality on various parts of our planet, while others live in sheer prosperity and don't know what to do with all their resources. So we had this before, not because we had too little. In the future, we will have it because we have too little or we cannot provide for all, even if we would want to. Now it's mostly like a distribution problem. But this would be the goal, to keep this system stable. How would we do that? First, you would need, once again, innovative technologies and business models combined with rationalized resource use. You have to impose frugality, and you have to strictly regulate and manage migration as well as population, so that you do not overshoot the rest what you still have. Because we just assume that you cannot decouple economic growth and stability in order to prevent an ecological collapse. So you have to make good with what you still have. So to summarize the short discourse that led us towards a circular society, let's have a quick look once again of what's the difference circular economy versus circular society. So first of all, the circular economy is mostly concerned with maintaining natural resources and minimizing discharge of substances that are harmful to health and nature. And we also talked about the goal of increasing and maximizing the utilization of those resources that I already had, for example, in the performance economy. Another major aspect of circular economies is this idea of decoupling growth, economic growth, from resource consumption and keeping everything else the same. So we had this system or focus on businesses and the capitalist system in itself to keep all of that as it is right now. And you still have this goal to consume as much as possible, just decoupling that from the resources that you need to consume as much as possible. Circular societies, on the other hand, have a more holistic perspective on this. So we're not just looking at the economic perspective, but we're also including socio and political transformations into these equations and how to reorganize them to the better good of humanity as a whole, instead of just like parts of the economic systems. And to do so, we replace intransparent and inequity-based value chains of the linear economy or the circular economy with a democratic, transparent, and cooperatively organized value chain. So we're not interested anymore in selling as much as possible, but rather like how much do we need to solve a problem for our society. So how many holes per year do we need? How many pieces of car do we need? How many iPhones do we need? And not just how do I sell as many iPhones as possible. And it also looks at the democratization of value creation process, so that everyone participates and benefits from value creation, and strategies for the activation and emancipation of different stakeholder groups. So that it's not just a few who benefit from most of it, but everyone in society benefits. Circular societies, on the other hand, have a more holistic approach that goes beyond just these Circular societies, on the other hand, have a more holistic perspective on this. So we're not just looking at the economic perspective, but we're also including socio and political transformations into these equations and how to reorganize them to the better good of humanity as a whole, instead of just like parts of the economic systems. And to do so, we replace intransparent and inequity-based value chains of the linear economy or the circular economy with a democratic, transparent, and cooperatively organized value chain. So we're not interested anymore in selling as much as possible, but rather like how much do we need to solve a problem for our society. So how many holes per year do we need? How many pieces of car do we need? How many iPhones do we need? And not just how do I sell as many iPhones as possible. And it also looks at the democratization of value creation process so that everyone participates and benefits from value creation, and strategies for the activation and emancipation of different stakeholder groups. So that it's not just a few who benefit from most of it, but everyone in society benefits.